I doubt Picard is having dreams about all of those people. And for the dreams, okay, so the mass problem, yeah. So here's the deal. What we've heard. Oh, and Anti-Tracker is now streaming as Rational Roundtable, which he is no doubt going to probably put the audio portion of this in his stream. So if anybody wants to watch Anti-Tracker stream, you should go over there. I will be right back. I'm going to put on a commercial. I'll be right back.
The Jordan Marsh Super Sale is on.
Super!
This is the place for spectacular store-wide savings.
Super!
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only. Save 25 to 50% on selected fashions, accessories, housewares, and more.
Super!
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 3 days of sizzling savings of 25 to 50%. The Super Sale at Jordan Marsh is on.
This is the place, Jordan Marsh.
And let me...
One Day at a Time has moved. The craziest cast of characters in some of their zaniest adventures ever. Now come to you in the morning at a brand new time. Anything goes, and it usually does. So be sure to watch us, because it all happens
so you know,
one day at a time. Now at 10
so
Eastern, 9 Central and Pacific.
Dumb thing, all right.
There really is a Kentucky Fried Chicken school.
Yep, today we're making the Colonel's original recipe.
What have you learned?
Fresh chicken makes the best chicken.
And that we use 11 herbs and spices.
Oh, but that's the Colonel's secret. And special pressure cooking.
So it's always tender and juicy.
Looks like you've learned to make great chicken.
Only way to serve our customers right.
It's so nice, nice to feel. So good about a meal. So good about Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Wow, Kentucky Fried Chicken the right way. Okay, so here's the deal with, and this might be a spoiler, so it's a minor spoiler though. What happens, and we can tell this between the comic book and the short track,
So your audio is really low,
and what we've heard from various people who have seen the first 3 episodes of Picard.
Let me see if I can get that fixed.
So, Geordie LaForge is at Utopia Planitia. And he is saying that the first wave of ships...
tell me, Jeff, is that
Utopia Planitia is
working
so
tell me now,
full-time,
the last thing I see is
24/7 on making a bunch of ships to evacuate the Romulans.
So
because
tell me
they have
if
an
it's better
entire
now, if it's a
empire
better
to
mix.
evacuate. It's not a single planet.
And,
it's
okay,
dozens,
that's better.
maybe hundreds of worlds.
Now, granted, I don't talk a lot during these
so
streams.
Utopia Planitia is
but the
apparently
main
working
thing
on
here is that
I would assume it's an entirely
this,
new class of starship.
just so you guys know, this is
just,
Caroga.
You know, just
Caroga is actually
for
much
refugee
prettier
travel.
countryside than most people realize.
And the first group of these
the problem is that, of course, Caroga is ruled by an evil dictator.
I
forgot how hard these cars are to
but
steal.
they were planning on making a hell of a lot more. This was just going to be the first batch.
And so the problem with Caroga is
in the
its
Countdown
dictator, and you
comic,
can
Picard
see
goes
here's
to
a wonderful example
an
of
outlying
Carogan
world
soldiers
outside on the Romulan
just hanging out
called
there.
Yacht Beta, and there he gets taken hostage by the Romulan
gotta take him
governor
out.
because while he's there, he finds out that there's another
I didn't tell you to call for
species
reinforcements
on the planet,
right.
a species
So
native to the planet, the
And-
Yatis, obviously, because it's Yacht Beta. And the
What are you
Romulans
doing?
had no plans on saving them. There's about 10,000 Romulans on the planet, and I guess the ship they sent to get them, the Verity.
All right, so now let's
which
take a
is
look at the map and
looks
see
to
what we
be
got to do here.
An
Well, there's
Odyssey
this
class
town.
starship.
Oh yeah, that's
that's
right. We were
almost
having the weird
identical to the
bugginess in
Odyssey
this game
class
before.
ships
So this town,
in
all
Star
I have
Trek
to do
Online.
was take out the
I don't
police
know if
station,
they're
and the town
supposed to be
should
able
be
to hold
liberated.
10,000
But
people
for some
or what.
reason, even though I was doing
But,
everything to
they
take
are
out
supposed
to
evacuate the
liberate
10,000
the police
Romulans, they
station,
had no idea
it
that there's
wasn't
another
working, so we're gonna
5
try it one more
million
time here. That's where the
native
statue of
Yatis
Bird
on the
once
planet.
was, which we took
And the
out.
Romulan governor said, well, you're not here to evacuate them. You're only here to
And so you
evacuate
can hear
us.
birds streaming there.
And Picard raised
you
a
know,
big
whoa.
moral stink about he
Krogans
wasn't
are not
evacuating
particularly good
anyone
drivers. Now again, I don't
until
blame
he
the
was
individual
able
Krogan
to
citizens.
find out what the deal was with the natives.
you know, they're taught by bird
then
of
she's
prey
like, well,
to
you know
drive,
what, now
and
you're under
therefore are
arrest.
really, really bad
We're
drivers.
just gonna
You can
take
see
your
this person
ship.
is going way too slow.
So at the end of the second comic
Yeah,
book,
so just gotta, there we go.
the Romulans have taken control of the Verity, which
So
was
just
Picard's
park right
ship,
here,
and I
take a
assume they're
look
about
at
to
the
start
police
beaming
station,
up
see
their
what we can do
10,000
here.
colonists. Now, what was going down on the planet was that Laris, who's the
And looks like
Romulan
there's
woman, and her boyfriend,
few guys there.
uh,
We should probably take
who
these
were
guys
the
out.
vineyard keepers on Uyat Beta, they
I
had
don't wanna shoot you
natives
guys.
working the
Trying to help you.
land, which we first thought of they were possibly slave labor. But in the second comic book, we find out that the Uyatis are actually fairly advanced. They have a lot of weird technology. Probably the planet has some weird things going on. Like the Uyati live like inside a mountain where there are upside down waterfalls, and the two Romulans who became friendly with Picard at the vineyard over there, it turns out they were Tal Shiar members. But they're undercover Tal Shiar, so nobody knew they were Tal Shiar.
All right, so let's
And they fell in love. It was their first assignment together, and they fell in love while they were there.
stupid.
So
Took
they
one too many
can't tell
bolts that
anyone
time.
they're in love, or
Bird
they get
takes a
kicked out
finger or
of.
toe every time you
the
denounce
Tal
Frank and
Shiar.
Freddy, so there's a lot of bad
But
drivers in Carogan. Oh, that must be
They
it.
also couldn't let
Thomas
these
says,
natives
last I
be
tried to on
killed.
playing a game, had
So
to download
with the
Chrome
natives,
for StreamYards.
I don't know if
and
they armed the
window
natives or
of the
what, but
stream,
they got
I
the
had
natives
to open like
to
5 of
take
his streams.
Picard,
I hate computers.
to save
I
Picard.
understand.
They attacked the
Computers
Romulan
can be a pain.
the Romulan governor's compound,
Oh yeah, I
and
keep
they
forgetting this is
freed
not just
Picard
Cars
and his
4.
first officer. So at the end of the book 2 of the comic book, Picard, Rafi Musiker, who's first officer, Laris and her boyfriend, and a bunch of the native Uyatis are on the planet's surface, but they have no way of getting to the ship. And on the ship is the Romulan governor and some of her aides, and she's got the first. Well, okay. It's actually so Admiral Picard is the guy in charge of the
weird.
ship.
Did
There
you
was
see
no
that?
captain.
That was
So
bizarre.
Admiral Picard and his first officer, Rafi Musiker, both beamed down to the surface.
Seriously? Where
So
did
I
that
guess
explosion come
it's a
from?
second officer who's left in charge, a random commander, and he was already taken prisoner by the Romulans because they got
Bird's talking
somehow
about
the
prisoners.
Romulans had gotten
I'm trying to liberate them.
what I
We're
assume are
basically
the
looking
command
for each
codes
jail. We're trying to
for
rescue
the Verity,
Aberjam. The
because as
problem
soon
is
as they
that
beamed on,
we don't know
and
where
they were
he
given
is.
access
So
to a
still
computer,
working on
they
liberating
immediately were able to
Aberjam,
take control of the ship.
who is
So they got the command code
unjustly
somehow.
imprisoned for
I suspect
daring
Section 31
to
gave them the
create
command
an
codes. I
accurate
have no way of knowing
Carogan
it,
national anthem.
but that's all. But that's just a suspicion.
And even though
anyway, I
he,
believe they did it because
he did create a
I don't think
censored
Section
version of the
31
anthem
wants
for
the Federation
evil
to
god
save all the
dictator Bird.
Romulans. I think that they realize
even though Aberjam actually did what Bird asked for, they
it's
still
probably
keep him
safer
in
for the
prison to
Federation,
prevent the original
and the one way to
uncensored
do
version
that
from
is
ever
to
leaking
cause
out.
the
Even though we
Romulans
got a secret
the
transmission,
Romulans
so I have a
killed
copy.
Picard.
But
that would probably really slow down, if not
so we got to
completely
free
cancel
Aberjam. That's the whole
the
point
entire
now,
effort
is
of
to-
saving them.
We're going to
And
hit
the
every single
Romulans are
Carogan
not.
death camp,
You would think
prison,
the
and
Romulans are
re-education
begging
center
the
until we
Federation
find
for
them.
help, but they're not. The Romulans are being real assholes.
Whoop, almost shot a civilian there.
They don't trust the Federation. They're being very, very paranoid. They don't let the Federation scan their planet. They don't let the Federation scan their space. The Federation can make contact, but the different governors make the Federation wait hours for responses. They're just being real assholes, even though the Federation's trying to save their asses. They really, a lot of Romulans don't believe the Federation is actually doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And they think the Federation is trying to destroy Romulus, which I suspect Section 31 really is trying to do in the background, but
so
Picard doesn't know this yet.
Alright, so looks like we
Anyway,
cleared everybody
the
out.
thing that makes Picard get very upset and leave Starfleet isn't the fact that he was taken prisoner by the Romulans. It's the fact that the synthetic life forms,
Oh, wait a second.
who were,
Do you
I
bird stream
believe,
going
a
at the same
direct
time? I'm
copy
confused.
of
Yes, so
data,
that's bird. You
or
can see
that
bird
the
stream in the corner there.
Federation used
But here's what's going on,
B4, and I believe it was
Commander, is that
B4 who
bird
was in the draw.
is, of course,
it
as
definitely
many
wasn't
know,
data in
is
that
the
draw.
evil
It was, I believe it
dictator
was
of
B4,
Carogan.
and
I
there's
am the
a
duly
lot
elected
of
president of
Federation
Kurdistan, and I am working
cyberneticists,
on liberating
you know, over
Caroga.
a decade before
Specifically,
Picard
I'm on a
started,
mission to find
that were
and rescue
working on
Aberjam,
duplicating
because
datas,
Aberjam
and
has
they
been
did.
taken as a political prisoner.
And they made a ton of,
and
cybernetic,
trying to liberate him.
not cybernetic, synthetic
But
life
the problem,
forms.
and so I'm searching
And anyway,
every
these synthetic
prison,
life
every re-education camp, and such
attacked
for
Mars
Aberjam.
while the Romulan fleet
But Bird
was
is,
being
of course,
built. The Romulan
broadcasting
rescue
his
fleet was
propaganda
being built.
while I am attempting to liberate.
Now, from what
49ers
people
score, 49
who have
first,
seen the
49
first three
seventh,
episodes
Packers
have
here.
said,
Well, that's good news. I'm really hurting
is
over the
that
Titans, so if the 49ers win, I will
the
be a happy
synthetics,
camper.
and we saw the
Remind
attack
your folks
in
are on
Children of
Rational
Mars.
Roundtable. That's true. If you say
Short
anti-checker,
track.
I won't see it.
Is that the but we didn't know what the date was.
I
of
see
when
other
they were
people have
exactly
problems with
attacking,
this
what
police
year.
station. Oh, you had problems
So
here too?
apparently,
Okay. Yeah,
the
Thomas, do you have
synthetics
any idea
attacked
what I'm
Mars
supposed to do here?
before the Romulan
What did you end up
fleet
doing
was
that
completed.
ended up liberating this,
So
this
the
police station?
bulk of the Romulan fleet was
'Cause
never
I am
was never
completely
created.
stumped.
So the
this
Federation
is like the
could
fourth time
not save the
that
vast
I've
majority
killed
of
every
Romulans.
single
Now there are
Carogan
still
soldier
thousands
in
of
the
starships
police
out there,
station, so I have no
and
idea.
I suspect that perhaps the very first batch, because Geordie LaForge
So,
did say
any
the first
suggestions
batch
for me,
was
Thomas?
just about ready to leave
I would greatly appreciate
at the beginning of the comic book.
any suggestions
that
you may
first
have.
batch probably made it off
Because,
the planet.
You know,
But the
yeah.
second,
I
third,
just
and
keep
fourth
killing 'em, blowing up
batches,
their
however many
cars.
more
Well,
batches
I'll
there
try
were going
blowing
to
up the
be,
cars.
were probably the batches that were destroyed
So
when
you
the
mean like these
synthetics
cars?
attacked Mars.
Well, there's one.
Now, nobody has said this, but it is very, very possible Geordie LaForge is dead, because Geordie LaForge was stationed on Utopia Planitia, according to the comic book, and according to what people who have seen the first three episodes have told us. This takes place while the fleet was being built. So this attack by the synthetics is either happens in the third comic book, the third countdown comic book, which is this one.
Well, that's a cool
This was
explosion.
supposed to be released on the 15th. This was supposed to be released 4 days ago, but it got delayed, and now it's not going to be
who
released
shot me?
until after Star Trek Picard premieres. So I think this one would have given us some of the answers, but because I believe they had to go back and edit it because of last-minute changes made to the show by Alex Kurtzman,
Okay, you might want to get away from that truck because I'm going to
we
blow it
now
up.
won't get this
Whoa,
issue
there a helicopter?
until
There's a
after Star Trek
helicopter
Picard
coming
actually
after me?
premieres, which is a
Seriously?
total waste and ridiculous, a waste of our time and money.
Oh, well.
Like, I feel cheated. Like, I bought the first two comics, that this was a prequel to Picard, and knowing how these three comics ended was supposed to help me know something more about Star Trek Picard before it begins. And instead,
Well, at
due
least
to
the
their
helicopter
poor
make it easier to blow
planning,
stuff up.
now I'm not going to get the third one until after Picard already begins. So I'm kind of pissed about that, to be blunt.
All right,
But
so
I think we would
wait
have
a
found
minute.
out in this third comic
heat blow off
that
or
the
Captain
attack
Helicopter?
happens
From the military vehicle. Yeah, I know, but that's
in
the
this
thing. There's
in
like,
this third comic book.
you know,
So
I
I
don't
think,
understand.
and I don't know if
I've
we're
been
going to
blowing
find
the crap
out
out of this police
in
station,
Picard in the first couple of
for
episodes,
days now.
or if we're going to find out in the comic book. But the fate of Geordie LaForge is going to have to be discussed. I suspect most likely he is dead. I mean, we saw the brutal attack that the
Now,
synths
Captain
were
Foley's
doing on
contacting
Mars
me on
in the short
Facebook.
track. We
Ah,
see
Captain.
the brutalness of the attack
me a
in
minute.
flashbacks, in various Picard trailers. I mean, it was total devastation to Mars, the shipyards, the planet's surface, everything. It's all gone. It's all destroyed. So how anybody could survive it would be a miracle. I mean, Geordie would have had to have been taking a vacation or something that day. He would have to say, oh, it's a good thing I went to Earth to check on my wife or something that day. That would be the only way for him to get out of it. But, so I think we're going to really find out. And I suspect, you know, if they're not being cowards about it, that Geordi is probably dead. Which I don't like.
Just a second, guys.
Which I don't like, but I think that's the reality of the situation. So let's look at this. This is one of the. This is a clip available on CBS All Access. I can't find it on YouTube, so the only place you're going to see it is if somebody has CBS All Access and is willing to show parts of it, to the best of my knowledge. So here, Patrick Stewart is talking a little bit about the beginning of the show. Now I'm going to have to pause it and stop it regularly,
right,
so as not
Captain
to
Foley was confused because I
run
guess somebody was trolling
copyright
him on his
bots,
stream,
but
in my name.
we'll see what mostly what's going
that.
on. I'll explain along the way.
Star Trek. You're sure you want to do this? It's not.
But you know, someone mentioned that. Oh, whoa!
He says, yeah, it is not Next Generation.
Almost 20 years.
I say not all the.
Things have become
Let's see.
more
All
complex.
let's do is destroy all red striped items, free two
The world
prisoners,
of
and open the
Starfleet,
big doors.
the
Well, I
world of
opened the big
Federation
doors.
Is not
Let's see.
quite what it was the last time.
And it's funny. So, Cap, remember earlier on my, if you were on my stream, somebody
So,
mentioned that I had more people on.
Basically
the Trek yard. So I said,
admitting
yeah, suck on that,
the world
Foley.
of Starfleet,
So Foley was like, "Hey, you know,
world
people are
of
saying what's
Jean-Luc
going on
Picard, it's
between
not
you
the
guys."
same.
So
The
I told him what
Federation,
happened. He goes, "Oh
it's
yeah,
all
well,
different.
it's just Sam
It's been
tonight.
20
He's boring." So,
years since all this happened.
There we go. You know, I gotta love Captain Foley. He's got
different.
a sense of humor, you know,
And it's
so he
not
doesn't take
good.
himself
It's
too
not
seriously,
all
unlike
good.
some members.
And to be honest, that exactly
that
fits
in the fandom menace.
with what he
Wow.
said in the Variety
That's
article
cool.
and other articles, where he flat out said that this entire series is a response to the world of Brexit and President Trump.
All right, here we
Because
go
he is
again.
very much against Brexit and very much against Donald Trump, and he feels that those are against.
So here's the problem. So we
Federa-
kill all the
Federation's
bad
beliefs,
guys.
and he felt like he needed to do something.
And yeah, this police
He
station doesn't
needed
appear
to
to
do a
have
show
cells.
that had a message, and we will see that message very soon. So a new chapter begins, and we get his vineyard. We don't need the sound at this point. They're coming up on his vineyard, which is a beautiful vineyard, but skip along. Okay, well, now we got Kirsten. And Kirsten's talking about how everything's the same but different.
All right, I'm trying to place the hide real quick.
Yeah, and we're gonna pay homage to everything that came before, but we're gonna do something entirely different.
Let's see. Not
Every
must
time
have
Alex
deleted
Kurtzman
my numbers
speaks,
in the leaderboard because
he-
I
he-
beat. I don't know what happened to.
He
to
says
your,
one thing, and in the very
What-
next
what
next
happened there?
sentence,
'Cause
he negates
I don't know.
what he
I can't
said
delete you from the
in the
leaderboard.
sentence before.
At least
Now,
not
I've
that I
seen
know of.
this throughout 4 or 5 different articles, 3 or 4 different interviews. Every time this man speaks, he says something, and in the very next sentence, negates what he said at the beginning. It's almost like an art form he has down, which is, his lines sound pretty good, but he's his own worst enemy.
Man, this is difficult. I'm
it's-
trying to
it's
play a
ridiculous.
game while Foley is hitting me up on Facebook and
We get to see number
trying to read
one
the chat. And, yeah,
running.
it's just crazy.
Many other Trek shows, but that really had its own unique identity.
Okay, so this is obviously Picard, Jean-Luc Picard, obviously Patrick Stewart. Now, this is what I think. Laris, and again, I really forget his name, Zima or something, his Romulan name, but they're all living on his vineyard at this point. And at the very beginning of the Picard Countdown comic, we see Laris and the guy coming to Picard's vineyard.
Yeah, I just don't see what.
So I
have to
think that the
destroy.
beginning of the Countdown
I really
comic,
don't know.
which takes like, and then they say a year prior, they go a year back in time, and that's when we find out Picard gets taken by the Romulans. But a year after that, these guys come. So I believe they've been at his vineyard now for 8 or 9 years. I believe that's just their life is living out at Picard's vineyard, and they seem to be getting along almost as a family.
You talking in your sleep last night?
Whoops.
So yeah, they heard him talking in his sleep last night. She says bad dreams.
The dreams are lovely. It's the waking up that I'm beginning to resent.
It was important to...
The dreams are lovely. It's the waking up he's beginning to resent. And I gotta be honest, I felt kind of bad for him there, because
let's see. I
You
don't
get
know
to a
what
certain
happened with
age,
I want to know
and-
why you're not showing up in my leaderboards. I really do, because
that
I
happens.
like the
It's not something
competition
you want
there.
to think about, but
It doesn't make
this
any sense that your
is
numbers
a
would just
Romulan
disappear
now.
off the
This
leaderboards.
is a Romulan
Now I got a helicopter.
woman now, and honestly, I don't have a problem that the Romulan woman looks 100% human, other than her ears, and maybe her eyebrows are a little weird, but her facial structure, her body, it's 100% human. I don't have a problem with it. However, right? However, at the end of Nemesis, this is what a Romulan woman looks like. Okay? This is a clip from Nemesis. This is a Romulan woman in Nemesis. Okay? And that's a Romulan dude. And of course, in Deep Space Nine, we know this line. We know this line. Oh no. Let's go back. It's a fake! Yes, so this... That is what a Romulan looked like in Deep Space Nine. And in Picard, they're basically humans with pointy ears.
The dreams are lovely.
I don't mind it, but it's noticeable.
Bar's
And
getting
here's
there,
the
but
guy.
you need to stay close.
Oh, great.
Okay,
There's
so
a bar?
that's a replicator. He said tea, Earl Grey, decaf. So you see, it's like it was because he says tea, Earl Grey, but it's different because he says decaf now. And we get a completely new replicator, which looks a lot more like the replicator, and I say replicator, that was on Star Trek Discovery, even though there should not have been replicators on Star Trek Discovery. But it's got this blue laser 3D printing thing instead of the, materializing replicators that we saw in the Next Generation. Again, do I care that the replicator has changed? Not really. I mean, yeah, it looks cooler, and sure, they could have new replicator technology, but it's one of those many chances that they are passing to make something that we want to, that once looks familiar to us. Nothing in this show is really looking familiar to us. And if you want to keep your fans happy, you gotta throw them a bone. You gotta throw them some type of bone.
We do with this character, it's 20 years later, to really focus on.
And yeah, so Heather Caden, she was the woman who was standing. She's an executive producer.
Going through and kind of
And
after so long, sometimes I worry I forgot.
so, okay.
We have not.
Okay, well that's Laris's boyfriend. So again, that's a Romulan guy in Star Trek Picard. And this was a Romulan guy in Star Trek Discovery. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine, excuse me. Oh my god, I can't believe you said Discovery. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So it's a little bit different. It takes some getting used to. But for this past scene where Laris says, sometimes we think you forgot who you are, but we haven't. What she is talking about is that Picard saved thousands and thousands of Romulans, even after they were dicks to him, even after they were assholes to him. He saved thousands, including her and her boyfriend or her husband, whatever. For all I know, they're married, but they're not officially married because they were Tal Shiar So see, her and her boyfriend were one of the many, many, many Romulans saved by Picard. So they're the ones that say, we have not forgot what you did. Because in the Countdown comic, Laris specifically says they owe their life to Picard. They can't, apparently, because of politics in the Federation.
This police station is just broken.
Is that Romulans have become the illegals of the 24th century.
Thomas, if you,
they have
if you can,
the Federation isn't making them easy
I can't
to live.
switch
They're
windows
not making
or
it
anything.
easy
So
for them to,
look up this
get
town.
jobs or whatever. They're not making it easy for them to assimilate into the culture.
Surpicco.
So the fact that these
See
guys,
if there's anything online
this
as far
woman
as
and this
how
guy
the
had literally nowhere else to go. They came to Picard and they basically,
because if I do it,
I don't want to say they're slaves, they're his slaves,
mess up Bird's
but
stream
they
and everything.
dedicated their life to him because they had nowhere else to go, and they figured they owed Picard.
Says, just walked into
so they are giving their time to Picard,
he got to where
and
you are,
I believe that's why they're working on the vineyard for him. And they've probably had a better life than most Romulans the last 10 years.
Character with arguably the greatest single captain and actor.
Arguably the greatest single Star Trek captain. Now, you know what, Akiva? I won't fight you. You are absolutely correct. He is arguably the greatest captain. I would argue he's not the greatest, but it's arguable, okay? It is arguable. There are a lot of people who will say Picard is the best captain.
It was really a delightful opportunity. I mean,
so anyway, let's see. We wanna
sending air support.
Okay, so here we got Picard talking to the dog.
Who said that, number one? What is so that number one? Who said that? No legacy is rich as honesty.
There is no legacy as rich as honesty. And honestly, I was going to look this up. There is no legacy as rich as honesty. Because I was curious if that is a real quote that somebody said. Oh, a Shakespearean play, of course. Of course. I don't know which it is. The quotation is from the play All's Well That Ends Well, Act 3, Scene 3.
No tanks.
Okay.
So I have to fight off
it makes
tanks and
sense
helicopters
that, you know,
just to get the frickin' thing done.
A Shakespeare fan and a Shakespearean actor, he would know such a line.
Who said that number one?
Oh, of course. No, listen, whatever we're going to say about Star Trek Picard, the dog is adorable.
Fascinating about playing this role now.
Chavez gets the most chaos points.
Okay, so this is something I want to talk about. Now, I know people have talked about this before, but this is by far the best shot we get of this fancy new transporter system.
My aging, my experience.
Look at how these people just walk through this door, this transporter door, and like they're zapped off to wherever they're going and wherever they're coming from, almost like people use an escalator today. It's just another form of mass transit. Nobody is shocked by going through it. They just walk through it and they're where they are. Now, a lot of people have asked, well, how do you know where to send you? You know, nobody's saying, send me to, you know, Starfleet Academy, send me to the moon, right? Nobody's saying where they're going. Presumably, they all are going to and coming from different places. I would say that if somebody's carrying a, you know, the modern equivalent of a cell phone,
I guess
whatever
I'm
their
not paying
is,
attention. Still waiting.
Whether it's their communicator badge or a tricord or something on them.
Now we can finally liberate
it could
this
even
town.
be, for all we know, you know, it could be a piece of technology that's under their skin. They could just have simply programmed it to tell, you know, almost like you set a waypoint on Google Maps. And you put in your destination, and as soon as you go through this metal gate, it reads what your destination is and it sends you there. So I honestly don't have a problem with this technology. It's actually, I'm going to say, it's a pretty ingenious way of doing the transporter. as a mass transit system. And I know
You're here.
Anti-Trekker
Bird
was
of Prey
saying
likes
that,
the
why
metal
didn't we have
detector
this in the
transporter
short
boots.
track? Why were they using, you know, shuttles as school buses if they had this technology? While that is a fair question, the honest answer is, at this point in the show, we are at least 10 years post the short track. So it is quite possible. I mean, we know this technology was not in use 20 plus years ago. We never saw it in use.
All right.
So this technology, I would say, is relatively new. So it's perfectly honest, you know, it's perfectly logical that it simply wasn't wasn't available at the time the short track was
finally,
made.
got yet another
Either
town
hadn't been
liberated.
invented yet at
Unfortunately,
all,
Aberjam, you were
or
not
if it
in the
had been
police
invented,
station
it
of
was
this
still
town,
being
so we're
tested.
off to the next
Now, I'd
town,
imagine that Starfleet probably gets this
attempt
new
to
technology.
find you. So we're not giving up on you until we
people in the
search
Federation.
every town
so
in
they could still
Caroga.
be beta testing.
We will
it for
not
all
give
we
up
know.
on you, my friend.
I mean, before you start letting your kids go through it, you can have a ton of Starfleet officers use it just to prove its work. Now, here's the thing. It looks like everybody has been saying.
Oh, there's the garage.
Everybody has been saying that Picard has come to San Francisco, and that this is. There's
a busted up tank.
Starfleet headquarters.
Oh, I need a vehicle.
But these are palm trees. There are no palm trees in San Francisco. And if somebody tells me, well, there's palm trees in 2399 because of global warming, I can't accept that. Okay, I'll be honest.
Sorry, guys.
There are some things I can accept.
We gotta find Aberjam.
I cannot accept that there are palm trees
I gotta find my buddy
in San Francisco in 2399. It makes no sense. There's weather grids, there's weather, you know, they have control of the weather of the planet. There's not going to be palm trees in San Francisco.
Man, now I understand
So
Bird a little bit. You see, I think it's this Carogan driving technology. It's designed to make you
Miami
crash.
Or
so
Southern
it's not
California.
just Bird's pure incompetence.
San Diego, Los Angeles.
It's Bird's incompetence combined with the fact that Carogan cars are designed to crash.
You can have these palm trees. I don't think that if it is Starfleet headquarters, then perhaps Starfleet headquarters has moved, and you know it wouldn't be impossible
the only ways I can give
for Starfleet headquarters to move after the Dominion War. You know, there had to be a lot of rebuilding. There had to be a lot of
Elton John on loop.
You know, new projects.
I think you're near the palace.
So maybe they decided, hey, let's not keep Starfleet headquarters and Starfleet Academy next to each other. Maybe that's too big of a target.
You might want to let Bird know when you can.
Just my
shoot!
opinion.
I think I lost a tire because I can't steer.
But I don't believe.
All right. Yeah. That car ain't working. Sorry, guys. Someone's gonna have to give us their
so
car.
now we get a great
nice
shot of the Enterprise D, and this is the only time in all of the trailers, in all of the short tracks, in all of the leaked footage coming from the show, that we see anything resembling in a prime timeline, a main timeline Star Trek ship. And I suspect this is here solely because Michael Chabon was already on the show. It's already been shown, and it was too late to be edited out. So I think it's probably going to be kept in the show.
Right.
But I think had this
so
not been
Aberjam,
shown,
you may want to let Bird know
type of thing
when you can hear explosions outside of your cell. That way I'll know I'm on the right
licensed
track.
materials.
You sure you drive like you're going? Have you lost a finger?
But
No,
it is a
I'm trying to
beautiful
blend
shot of
in,
the Enterprise
actually. That's
D.
why I'm driving like a
Now, I gotta be honest, I'm wondering why is the Enterprise D so special that it's the one hologram that happens to be showing above what I assume to be Starfleet headquarters. I mean, the Enterprise D would have been destroyed, what, 15 plus years ago? Maybe over 20 years ago. Excuse me, over 20 years ago. Did the Enterprise E, did it not have a long and a distinguished career? But I love the fact that the Enterprise D is there. Sci-Fi Nation says, read your comment. Okay, Sci-Fi Nation. we'll read some
So we're gonna
comments.
make sure. Whoops,
That's
you
right.
let
I
Bird
do
know if you
apologize,
can hear
I have been
explosions in
neglecting
your general area. That way,
comments.
Bird will read it, and I'll know that I'm in the right general area.
Let's see.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
Sci-Fi Nation says, Vertebrae, your
From
slideshow
military,
isn't
so I
keeping
guess
up with
I'm
your
not doing that.
narration. Well, it's not a slideshow. It's just me trying to manually click through. Ozzy NF, welcome Ozzy. I think Anti-Trigger downvoted you. What a dick. Well, it happens. It happens. Frodo says, Vertebrae, maybe B4 was disassembled because of the Android attack. Then again, I'm sure they base their designs on B4, so who knows? Yeah, very, very true. Well, let's put B4 looked like he had scorch marks.
Hey, I see Thomas.
So
You're on the
maybe he
leaderboard
had to
again.
take a phaser or two to
So
be
hopefully you'll show
disassembled.
up if I
Or
try to do the
maybe
helicopter
I
trick
suspect
again.
what's more logical is that B4 was never able to keep up with Data's programming, and like B4 just kind of failed after, you know, a few days or a few weeks after we last saw him in Nemesis. B4 just shut down because he could not take all of Data's memories. He just wasn't designed for it. Stress-free says, look,
All right,
Forge can
let's
die
check
a
what
hero's
we got
death.
up here.
He very well might. He very well might. Dan23 says, so I heard ages ago the last comic was going to come out after the first episode. Yes. Well, here's the deal. The comic was originally scheduled to come out in late January because the card was originally scheduled to be premiere in February. But then they moved the premiere date of Picard up to January. So then, although they didn't do it immediately, they did move the Picard countdown comic date to before the premiere.
So this place has got
But
active
then,
defenses. I think we
because
need to
of
somehow take them down.
reasons, they had to again change the countdown comic release date now to after the premiere. Now, there was only several thousand of these copies sold. According to Neurotic, who has the links to look at the lists of how much, literally, how much
Let me take
each
a look at
comic
the map
sells.
here.
So it's not that they needed to print 100,000 of these. Okay, I think there was literally less
So
than
how am I supposed to
6,000
stop the
issues of issue
airstrikes?
1 sold. So there's going to be even less of issue 2 and issue 3. So it's not that this is going to be a tremendous run of comics that they need, you know, weeks to get it done. I'm sure they can run these, you know, whatever they need, 5,000 initial copies. You know, probably they run that in over one night, and it's not a big deal. So the only thing that the problem is, they must not have the content to run it, which is, I suspect, because they need to redraw big parts of the comic, or even little parts. If they have to redraw, you know, a few cells of the comic, they have to, you know, they can't print it. So it's delaying when they could print it and delaying the entire thing. And frankly, I think it means they really just don't care about the people who did put their money and time into reading the comic, because they're not trying to get it out on time. Sci-Fi Nation's Bird of Prey track indeed all entertainment media should be just that, not message about what every day, not mess about what we hear about every day to begin with. I agree. Welcome, Chief Cook. Yeah, Trek 95 is Bird of Prey.
So the easy way is that you just got all you got to do is get the airstrikes to take everything out for you.
Like a politician. Sci-Fi Nation says that's a TOS Romulan, a nice homage. Yeah. Well, I will agree. The original series Romulans looked a lot more like humans. That's why it's one of the reasons I'm not totally upset. John DeMarco's Bird of Prey. Picard was dreaming of the TNG era, and he wakes up in the person mirror. I'd be resentful too. You know what? That is a great.
So
line,
Simon
yeah.
Leon.
I didn't mind the dreaming. It's waking up that's upsetting. Frodo says Bird of Prey. I think it's going to be more of a visual reboot
that the
with
town down here?
the odd nod to canon, just like STD, except not so blatant, maybe. Well,
no, that's okay.
The people who saw it, and mostly going by that podcast, the Seventh Rule podcast, they did say it was better than Discovery. But yeah, I would agree. It's going to be a visual reboot with a very odd. In fact, I would say there was probably a lot more nods to canon before Shaban got either resigned or fired. And I think they took out a lot of those nods.
Square radar dishes. Well, I took out a couple of them.
We're going to see. Mary, welcome Mary, says they cloned Picard once. That's true. Romulan did have a clone of Picard. Oh, which is going to, after this, I'm going to talk about the girl, Doll. Actually, what we'll do is we'll go through all the characters, and then I'll talk about why Doll is special. Sci-Fi Nation says, Bird of Prey, you can't appreciate Shakespeare until you've heard it in the original Klingon. Yes. General Chang. Yes. Yes. Star Trek 6. And I bought, and somewhere in this house is my first edition of Shakespeare, of Hamlet, restored to the original Klingon by the Klingon Language Institute. I bought it in like the mid-90s or something. It was one of the first things I ever bought online.
I hate that the guard towers
respawn. A website
respawn.
that like a 12-year-old could make today. Probably worse. Just, you know, send your money and they mail it. Sci-Fi Nation's a Bird of Prey. They had a personal transporter Nemesis. Yes, Data slapped it on Picard. They did. That experimental personal transporter. It was the size of like a silver dollar. And most interesting part about it was that it transported itself.
Ooh, that was close.
You did not need a ship's transporter to use it. I don't know how it could possibly work. Like honestly, it's an impossible device. But the device actually transported itself.
Oh, so that big radar dish
as
up there
part of the
probably.
transport process. It's one of those things you don't want to think too much about, because it really doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Could it be Starfleet Academy? Well, it could be.
I did not mean to do that.
But Starfleet Academy is also in San Francisco. I just don't think this is San Francisco. Yeah, LA or Florida would be my guess, Mary. Rambling Canucks is Bird of Prey. CBS sponsors the channel. Confirm those transporters look like your mass transit and city skylines. That's true. They look like the Stargate transporters and city skylines that were used. Sci-Fi Nation's Bird of Prey. Earth has had weather grids since TOS movies. It's at least possible. Well, yes, but they wouldn't be changing the weather so that they could have. I mean, that would be crazy if they were purposely changing the weather so that they could have palm trees in San Francisco. They would be looking to keep the original climate. Alexander says, Bird of Prey, I was in Stokey and they planted palm trees there because they're able to live there. Okay, but that doesn't mean they planted them in San Francisco in the future. Mr. Miles says, sorry to tell you, San Fran already has palm trees. Does it have palm trees lining streets? I mean, I have not seen it. If they do, I've been to San Francisco. Tiki says there are palm trees in San Francisco. Really? Maybe I'm wrong. Tiki of Doom says there are palm trees in Northern California. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't ever remember seeing palm trees outside of Starfleet headquarters ever before, but
whew. Man, a wingsuit and a parachute sure would be handy.
San Francisco,
well, wingsuit and parachute.
It's possible.
How do you? Well,
it
can they
not look
defend
like
against these kind of attacks?
We'll see.
I mean,
we'll
like
see
if
in just a few days. Okay, and somebody messaged me. Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Miles sent me a picture of a street lined with palm trees over not the Golden Gate Bridge, the other bridge. I guess I stand corrected. I guess it could be San Francisco. It doesn't look like anything we've ever seen though, for Starfleet Academy. So okay, so here we go. So these, I want to talk about these characters who are going to introduce themselves. This is Rafi Musiker. She was the first officer to Admiral Picard in the Countdown comic. So she was first officer of the Verity, and she and Picard had a very close personal relationship. Not an intimate relationship, but they were close friends. So close that she would call Admiral Picard JL. Like JL was her pet name for Admiral Picard. And she called him that even on duty.
I play Rafi, and what can I tell you?
So she's Michelle Hurd.
Not very much. She had...
Rafi Musiker is her character name.
The big rectangular one, yeah, that's what I'm going for, Aberdeen.
With Picard.
Let's
she's
see.
from his past,
This one definitely
and
keeps
she's
you
a
on the move,
genius
that's for
strategist.
sure.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, a genius strategist. Well, I would have been so shocked if she wasn't a genius something. In Star Trek Picard, she's also the Federation expert on Romulans and Romulan culture. So she's now picked up another genius. She was the top expert in Romulans and Romulan culture, and now she's also a master strategist. How shocking. Okay, so this guy is the captain of the new. It's not a Federation ship.
Oh, sure, you wait till I
It's
come
his
over
own
there to
ship.
blow up.
And she's a little maybe haunted by demons.
I'm Santiago. I play Chris Rios.
Chris Rios. I'm here to do the role in R in Spanish. Cristobal Rios is actually his character.
Cristobal Chris Rios. She's the only one who calls me Chris. That's something I want to say. He's ex-Starfleet.
So I was surprised to hear this guy was indeed ex-Starfleet. So that actually is going to bring some something interesting to the mix. It almost sounds like we're setting up another Marquis, but not the Marquis. And that we've got former Federation officers.
10 lurkers, maybe I did a belly dance with drawing out. That would be kind of creepy, Aberdeen. I don't need you to do a belly dance to draw out the lurkers.
And because of that, he's sort of reticent to.
Yeah, he's not so eager to help Picard. This lady is a not a geneticist, is a cyberneticist. She works with androids, and maybe she worked on the androids. And this guy is a 17-year-old Romulan who's basically an elf. Carries around a sword.
I play Dr. Agnes Girardi, and I am a researcher.
Agnes Girardi. Now, she doesn't tell him much of what she is, but yeah, she is the cyberneticist. So, Dr.
Well,
Agnes
I don't think
Girardi.
Aberdeen's being kept here anyway.
I will
so
never
what
remember.
we'll
I won't
do
remember that
is
name
we'll
for
work
a
on the
long
town
time.
nearby.
She's just going to be the cute
Right,
one.
did it move me? Yeah, it did. Oh, that's funny.
That's all I got. That's all I'm allowed to say.
I play a young Romulan boy by the name of Elnor.
Elnor. So he is Elnor. He's going to look like an elf. He's going to have a sword. And I believe he's going to be a member of a freedom fighting organization whose name I can't remember. And I believe the connection is 7 of 9 is a member of this organization too. Now this organization is mostly Romulans.
He's 17 years old and pretty skilled in hand-to-hand combat as well.
Well, we'll just head up there and see what's up there. We got to find you, man.
So we got Dodge, and I already forgot who.
Yeah, whoa, jeez. Okay, this I'm gonna get a real car. This thing sucks. Let's
Entering
get
the
in
next
here.
chapter of her life, and a major event, incident of sorts happens that really changes the whole world, and she goes seeking help from Picard.
Okay, guys,
Okay,
get everybody in.
Here's what I know about Dodge.
There we go.
And again, some of this is from people who have seen the first 3 episodes. So I'm going to put a slight spoiler warning here because I'm going to tell you why she's special. If you don't want to know why she's special, just mute for a couple of minutes and come back.
So let's see.
So she is special because, and again, this is what I've heard from people who've seen it, is that she has a positronic brain. No, she is a human. She's completely human, except that she has a positronic brain. that Starfleet stopped positronic brain research after the synthetic life forms rebelled and killed a bunch of people on Mars. But the cyberneticists were able to get around Starfleet's order not to do any more testing on synthetic life by apparently putting in a cybernetic brain into a human being. I don't know the ethics of it. I don't know how it happened, but she is supposedly got a positronic brain. Also, more shocking, and I'm not 100% sure I believe this, is that Daj actually dies in the first episode. But she has a twin sister, and her twin sister is on the Borg cube, which is under Romulan control, and it's her twin sister that Picard has to kind of rescue or whatever throughout the rest of the first season. So we'll see, but apparently positronic brain is what makes her special.
I play a guy called Marek, who's a Romulan, who
so
is
he's Marek.
in some secret operation, which I can't get into right now. And yeah, that's all I can say.
So he's just a Romulan involved in something secret. He can't say anything else.
Well, that didn't help. So you're not at a church, I'm pretty sure of that. I'm surprised there are any churches in Caroga. Of course, they all look old and abandoned.
Bubble of this sort of character-driven TV show with Patrick Stewart that
Okay, they were talking about what
solidify some of that, I think, because right now
they were talking about, like what it was like.
Guys, you didn't jump
start
out.
Working on Star Trek Picard.
Generations of humans is pretty cool.
And they're all talking about.
Star Trek's been pretty embedded.
I need a car, guys.
Yeah, this
Who
guy for
wants to give me a
years.
car?
Years.
Moved forward with so many things.
Star Trek's been embedded in pop culture for years, like at least 6 or 7 years, right? Years. Okay, I know. I'm making fun of him. He plays a 17-year-old. I don't know how old he is. Maybe he's 20. Okay, so for him, years is a long time. Not 54 years. That's 3 times as long as this guy's been alive, probably.
Put money on the twin sister being. And I don't think she's a clone. I think she is just a twin sister.
Major Trekkies, and suddenly they're like, "That's my
Oh,
original."
jeez.
And
Didn't mean to do
suddenly
that.
you realize this show has impacted so many.
Whoa.
And the fact that we get to
Man, Carogans are jerks.
Well, let's hope you do a good
Hey
job
guys,
of it.
anything I can do to help?
Let's hope you do a good
No?
job
Okay.
of it.
It's a sort of
I'll just
experience
borrow
where
the ambulance
you
then.
say yes to the job, and then it takes some time to sort of start gathering a bigger understanding of the universe itself, but also what it means to certain people. I was always aware of Star Trek. I was not necessarily.
Carogans worship the goddess Diana Ross?
Not necessarily a Trekkie.
Well, now I'm watching it and I'm part of it, but it's incredible. You just feel the love straight away. You feel.
You don't have to be a Trekkie. A lot of actors weren't Trekkies when
This
they started.
ambulance is
but
really slow.
Just be honest, guy. Say I wasn't a Trekkie. Don't say I wasn't necessarily a Trekkie.
I was hoping it would be just a bit faster.
I have to say, after seeing...
Yeah.
I mean, it's really deep. It's beautiful.
After seeing this actress talk,
When I think about Star Trek, it sort of
I hated her in the comic book. I hated her in the comic book when she was saying, "Oh, JL, blah blah blah."
There
and
you
I'll
go,
probably
Bird
hate
hates
her
black women. You heard it
again
here.
if she starts calling Admiral Picard or whatever JL. But hearing her speak and talk about her character, I actually felt I think she redeemed herself a little bit in my mind. Maybe the comic book did not treat her as well as it should have, and what little part of her we saw in the trailer, maybe it was just a bad scene. I don't know, but I'm hoping that I don't hate her as much once the show begins.
Star Trek was one of the shows that
There is a
Carogan
genuine
British
kindness
funds
to
to
her
Medicare
as
for the
she's
belly
speaking
dancing school. That wouldn't
that
surprise
doesn't
me.
come across in the comic book. And so this one, it was a little bit I wanted to talk about.
old. I did not miss that.
So he was saying he didn't miss the makeup.
Yeah.
And we 7 seasons and 4 feature films. We had explored and investigated so much, there was nothing left.
So, Patrick Stewart was basically just saying he thought he was done. After Nemesis, he thought he was done. He wasn't planning on ever going back. Brent Spiner says the exact same thing. Jerry Ryan says after the 7 seasons of Voyager, she thought 7 of 9's journey was complete as well. She didn't see herself ever going back, and I think was Jonathan Del Arco or something, his name.
Is that same?
He certainly never imagined he'd be going back as you.
All right, let me know if you hear anything, Aberjam.
Here they all are.
Any urge to go back?
Hey, how you doing? I'm looking for.
He had no urge to go back until he saw what Alex Kurtzman brought to him. Okay, so Jerry Ryan is talking about this. Brett Spiner.
Because as Patrick said, we weren't cheap. We had a lot of shots at it, and but I think what I missed the most was just being a part of that world.
Yeah, so they just.
I think like this show is going to do something. I think it's going to speak to people on
Definitely got to use the SAM
Yeah,
site.
it's going to speak to people on all. So
Roman First Aid requires only pretzels and Mountain Dew. Well, the Mountain Dew part I'm down with, but
he misses getting the makeup on.
I think we need a little more than just pretzels and Mountain Dew.
About missing Michael Dorn.
I miss making fun of Michael Dorn, who had already been there for 2 hours. But I also miss the end of the day, and I particularly think of Friday.
He looked at Brent Spiner, because that's something only he'll understand, since these other two weren't part of the Next Generation main cast.
When if we wrap just early enough, was never had a chance. And it always seemed to end in the captain's ready room with me and Riker and Data.
And remember, they filmed episodes, parts of episodes out of order, so even if the last scene of an episode wasn't in the ready room, they may have left the ready room scene to the end of the week to film, because it was probably one of the easier scenes to actually film. So it was probably something they could leave till the very end and be fairly confident they would get it done in whatever time they had left. So I was thinking about, like, they didn't end, not most episodes didn't end in the ready room, but then I quickly remembered that they don't, just because, you know, they don't film TV shows in the order in which they display.
And occasionally,
okay, there's another Sam.
And occasionally Dr. Crusher. And we would go get out of everything, leave the lot, and go into the front door of Nicodell's bar.
So Nicodell's bar, if you're ever in Los Angeles and they're shooting a Star Trek series on a Friday evening, go hang out at Nicodell's bar. Or I guess you could hang out there anyway. Maybe you'll see some celebrities. But that was where Patrick Stewart, he misses the camaraderie. He misses having friends, I think.
That bar at the end of a 12.
Wow, Bird, that's mean. I don't do Twitbook on my face. I suppose I'm ahead of the game. Well, that's good.
Those social times when the work hadn't begun.
Twitbook or my face? Well, I am on Facebook, but I don't do much there.
So that's what he honestly misses the most. And to be honest, I believe him. I believe him. So, let's see. Yeah, these are what real Romulans look like. That was that. It was that, and... Oh, how did this scene get here? I don't know, but we should... We might as well play it since it was here. This is, of course, a scene from Deep Space Nine. I don't know how it got on my browser. Oh man. Yeah. Well, I guess this is relevant to Star Trek Picard, because I'm sure in Picard they're going to talk about you know. LGBTQ issues. So remember 25 years ago, this was already airing on Star Trek, and maybe certain people who got the VHS of this episode may have played this scene over and over and over again until the VHS tape actually broke in their VCR, and they had to get a new VCR.
So Bird's talking about his young fapping days. This is really
their
quality
mom asked, what's broken in your VCR? And I said, or they may have said, don't worry about it, it's just broke. I need a new VCR. But that's purely hypothetical. Purely hypothetical. Oh. It's great seeing two people share their love. Wow. You can tell how much they cared for each other. Anyway, so do you guys have any questions about Star Trek Picard?
Wow, that antenna went down a little too easy.
I've been talking about it for this long because I need to. Sister O'Prea's here in the background. You can't hear her, but that's who I'm talking to. So yeah, Mr. Miles sent me an image of the palm trees on Skype. Mary says, ex-Starfleet, yes, Bird of Prey does sound like the Marquis. And there was kind of a big thing on Twitter because they released these like 10-second clips of the different different new characters, and Chris Rios's character, he smokes cigars. So he's literally smoking a cigar. He puts it in his mouth and takes puffs of the cigar in this Twitter exclusive like short video they released. And it had tons of people posting clips and links to the in the TNG episode where Mark Twain came to the future, where Data's head was back in the past, and Mark Twain came to the future Enterprise, and Mark Twain and Deanna Troi are walking down the corridor, and Mark Twain's like, I bet I can't get he wants a Cuban cigar, and Deanna Troy's like, we've given up tobacco centuries ago. And so Mark Twain's like, a man can't even get a fine hand-rolled Cuban cigar. And Troy said, well, I guess if we had to, we could probably replicate it. He's like, it wouldn't be the same. So they were not smoking cigars, according to the Next Generation. And this was doubled down in Deep Space Nine, in Little Green Men, when Nog and Quark and Rom went back in time to Roswell and crash landed in 1947 Roswell, and they're being interrogated by U.S. Army soldiers, and they're smoking, and they blow smoke, and Quark is like, oh my god, what is that terrible stench? And Nog says it's tobacco. And he's like, it smells vile. He's like, it is, it's poison. He's like, why are they smoking poison? He's like, they buy it in stores. And Quark is like, I'm gonna like it here. So, you know, again, by Deep Space Nine, the fact that any human was smoking tobacco was a alien and foreign idea. And they tripled down in Voyager. Paris tells someone, and I forget who it was, who was talking about a cigarette or something, that humans gave up. Oh yeah, so there was an alien species that had their own version of tobacco. And Tom Paris says that our species gave up tobacco products hundreds of years ago. So it is long established in Trek canon that cigarettes and cigars simply wouldn't exist in the 24th century. but they put up this guy smoking a cigar. I guess it's just to say, hey, I'm different than everyone else you know in Star Trek. But it's the kind of thing that it doesn't bode well for the show. You know, listen, make him do something else, right? There's an intelligent person could find some way to set this guy apart other than having him smoke a cigar.
So now Bird's upset about them smoking.
It's the kind of thing that you can tell they just don't care about.
I know, Auntie.
Miss Miles, so she's like Data's mother. Very possible. Though Data's mother did not have a human body. She had an android body. I mean, her arm came right off. Alexander says Dodge is absolutely gorgeous. I will grant you, Dodge is a very attractive woman, although I think the blonde is cuter. Cinnabon says her twin is Soji. Yes. Yes, it is. Wesley says Bird of Prey. Greetings, everyone. Tiki of Doom says Star Trek. And Frodo says Star Wrecked. Listen, we're going to see. We're going to see. It's possible it's good. I mean, I'm not saying it's absolutely going to be bad. I'm going to give it an honest chance, and I will be watching it, and I will be talking about it as soon as I can. Alexander says, Bird of Prey, I missed 7 of 9. Well, 7 of 9 is going to be in this, but I hear she's only in perhaps 1 or 2 episodes. She's not in any of the first 3 episodes. And she and Picard do not get along at the beginning, at least. And she's going by her human name, I believe Anakin.
Anakin?
So she's not going to be
Anakin.
She's not going to be called 7 of 9. Sci-Fi's and Bird of Prey broke his kissing Dax VHS tape. Confirmed. Maybe. Richie Poole says, how very progressive of you. I know, I am. I'm a progressive guy. Jeff Franklin's Bird of Prey. Picard sucks. Discovery sucks. JJ Bird sucks. I suck. Well, Jeff, 3 of those I would agree with. Perhaps
need some sort
2
of
I would
shelter,
agree
need a way to
with.
clean clothes, need a way to
1
breathe.
yet
Auto
remains to
requires
be
moolah.
seen. And the
That's
4th
true.
one is really up to you. I don't really have control over that.
20-0
do,
for the
man.
49ers.
You do.
I'd say that the game is going to
I
probably
don't
go to the
believe-
49ers
I mean,
then.
listen, if you say you do.
It didn't move me to the other location. No.
Mr. Miles is Bird of Prey. Maybe the cigar smoker is a future hipster. I think he's a current hipster. Isn't it Anakin? No, Jesus. Annika. Annika.
I like
Okay,
Anakin.
Well, whatever. 7 of 9's real name. Wrong franchise. I get it. Yeah, okay. Wrong franchise. I get it. I get it. She's using her human name. Okay? She's using her human name. So if you
Yeah, her
guys
human
don't
name
have
of
any other
Anakin.
questions, I think we're going to end it here. It is 8 o'clock, just about p.m. Eastern. There is a small chance I will begin streaming again at approximately 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
Why is that?
Annika. Okay, Annika. Because I will going to try to watch on HBO tonight premieres Avenue 5, which is the Hugh Laurie comedy about a cruise ship in space. So I'm going to try to watch that, and after it's over, if it's very good or very bad, I'm going to go live to talk about it. So that will be 10:30 p.m. Eastern or thereabouts. Take care, all. Good.
Alright, so now that Bird is done streaming, then I am going to finish up as well, because this was just to help fight off the evil propaganda of the dictator Bird. So now Thomas says I'm back, right? Now that I'm wrapping it up too. So guys, thanks for hanging out with me as we hung out with Bird, and he was talking about whatever lies he was talking about, and we were liberating Caroga. So and so take it easy, have a good one, and Jolan True.
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!